Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. This is whatever number we're on in homesteading, back from a long hiatus for that. And this one's all about the actual housing component, because, you know, it's in the name, homestead. And I think people, they focus a lot on livestock and vegetables and the land, and all those things are good things. But less thought is put, I think, into the actual construction component. I think people even put more thought into the barns and sheds than they do the actual housing. And there's a lot of things to consider based on where you are and what you think ultimately your main pain points are going to be. So just for example, energy. If you're planning on homesteading to detach from the overall infrastructure of society, having a energy sink of a home is going to be an issue. And so based on your geography, I highly recommend doing thorough research into the easiest means for you to decrease, if not utterly cut off, any kind of dependence on a grid. So geothermal, solar, just straight up full-blown primitivism, which I don't personally recommend just because that is so much harder and so much easier to get discouraged. But there are a lot of things to consider there. And just in terms of how a home is designed, berm houses, for example, are fantastic at maintaining a core temperature with minimal energy cost interference. Same thing with, you know, these quote-unquote earth ships. In fact, that's the one thing that the more left-leaning hippy-dippy types do far better, I've noticed, than the survivalist, prepper, further right type of homesteaders. And that is, they take the architecture and the overall build of a house, like the actual design and what it's made of, into much greater thought and consideration. And so urging people to do the same when it comes to building an actual structure that you're ultimately going to live in. You know, that everything else is important, obviously, but if you are miserable conditionally in your home, you're not going to be homesteading for very, very long. It's just, it's a war of attrition, really. It's your comfort and your ability to have some level of resilience in the face of all the other challenges. And if you don't feel at home in your homestead, then ultimately that's going to be a huge problem. So the whole idea of building like a 3-story brick or panel house with tremendous energy needs, that's not very smart. Even the direction it faces, whether it's facing north or south, all these things play a pivotal role in whether you're going to cook in the summer and freeze in the winter, or whether you're going to feel substantially more comfortable at a baseline temperature in both. So those are all very important things, and these are the kinds of questions that if you are having it constructed instead of building it yourself, you need to ask thoroughly, and you need to find the right person. And if you're planning on building it yourself, you really need to, this is my instruction, my opinion, attend workshops in relation to a number of different types of ecologically sustainable and off-grid houses, just so that you can really fully grasp what you're in for. Because if this is one of those things where it's like, you know, measure twice, cut once, except for your house, for where you're going to live, for where you're going to, you know, knock on wood, raise a family. If you don't measure twice on that, or in this case probably a dozen times and cut once, then you're going to end up in a miserable condition. And that's something I think everybody needs to consider, even before they consider, I mean, look at the land first, obviously, because, you know, you can't have a homestead without land. But then the second priority really should be the overall design, architecture, construction, and amenities. And that is an important word. You will need some level of amenities that's going to be associated with that homestead. So take all that into consideration. Logs are good, especially for the build-it-yourself types. There's actually quite a number of affordable kits. Berm, Earthship, those are all, to me, very reasonable. Whereas anything that's, same thing, by the way, with in Europe, they're really good at like mud and thatch type buildings that rival in terms of both aesthetic beauty and overall function, actual comfort. They're actually superior to all the ticky-tacky houses that we see in America. And that's just it. If you get a ticky-tacky homestead, you're going to have a ticky-tacky kind of comfort level. All those things are really important to consider. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.